Welcome back to another episode of TNLP, the newsletter podcast, brought to you by the HazMat Guys. I'm your host, Timmy, here with this week's top hazmat news from nationwide. We're off to a busy start in 2026, kicking off this week with a doozy. Jurupa Valley residents are concerned about weeks-long hazmat activity at Pleasant Valley Park in the California suburb. KABC brings us the story. It's a question that residents in one Jurupa Valley neighborhood have been asking for weeks. What in the world is going on at Pleasant Valley Park? This park was very active. There's a lot of kids, said resident Peter Reynoso. It's a good park. But Reynoso said early last month the park has been a source of mystery for residents. The gates are locked. Large trucks are parked all around the perimeter. And inside there's heavy equipment on standby. And they say officials in hazardous materials suits have dug a 4-foot deep hole across the entire retention pond on the south end of the park. I asked them, "What is it you're digging up?" because we saw hazmat suits. They were fully dressed in hazmat, said resident Cindy Fraley. Reynoso said back in December generators would run all night long, pumping water through hoses out of the retention pond. The thing about it is, they've been here 24 hours a day working nonstop. The generators are out here running all night long, said Reynoso, who said when he asks questions to the crews at the park, no one answers him. The mystery stems back to an incident with a garbage truck fire on November 29th, when smoke began emanating from the back of the truck. Firefighters quickly extinguished the fire but declared a hazmat incident at the scene. And residents say they've had all of this mysterious activity in this park ever since. Officials with the Riverside County Department of Environmental Health said the source of the fire was likely magnesium phosphate packets that were found in the garbage truck container. A statement posted online by the Jurupa Area Recreation and Park District said it was actually the suppression of the hazardous materials fire behind the garbage truck that led to the concerns around Pleasant Valley Park. As part of the Riverside County Fire Department's firefighting efforts, a firefighting foam was used to suppress the flames. This foam ultimately mixed with the water used in fighting the fire and flowed into the storm drain near the incident. Riverside County Fire Hazardous Material Response Team and Riverside County Environmental Health Department were dispatched to the scene as a result. It was determined that the materials ultimately washed through the storm drainage system into a retention basin at Pleasant Valley Park. As a result, the retention basin is currently considered potentially contaminated, and the potentially contaminated soil must be removed in a secure manner and then replaced with clean soil. In response to an inquiry made by Eyewitness News, Jurupa Area Recreation and Park District General Manager Colby Diugwid said they learned 2 days before Christmas that the firefighting foam that was used was not environmentally unsafe after all, and the park was never contaminated in the first place. Because of the recent storms, Diugwid said they haven't been able to clean everything up until they get a break in the weather. This is anticipated to take 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the weather, said Diugwid in a letter scheduled to go out to residents soon. At that point, the district's landscape contractor will begin reinstalling irrigation lines and turf. Large roll sod will be used to help expedite the process. Once completed, the turf will need a few weeks to properly root before the park can be reopened for public use. Prior to the reopening of Pleasant Valley Park, the entire facility will undergo thorough pressure washing and cleaning. The Jurupa Area Recreation and Park District said residents can stay informed about what's happening at the park through the Jurupa Area Recreation and Park District website. Our next story takes us to New York State, where 6 Cortland firefighters were transported to Guthrie Cortland Medical Center following a hazmat situation at iSpice. X101 tells us Cortland Fire says just before 5 p.m. on Friday, January 9th, they were dispatched to an automatic fire alarm at iSpice at 106 Central Avenue in Cortland. Shortly after arriving on scene, firefighters found no visible signs of fire or smoke. Firefighters then went into the building to continue their investigation. As firefighters approached the alarm panel for additional information on the automatic fire alarm, Cortland Fire says firefighters encountered a mist, dust, or smoke-like condition. They then donned self-contained breathing apparatus, also known as SCBA, for their protection. Cortland Fire also established a second team for backup in alignment with department protocols. Deputy Chief Derek Reynolds says around 3 minutes after firefighters entered the building, County 911 dispatch notified the deputy chief of a follow-up call they received. and advised an evacuation of the building should be considered. An evacuation was then immediately ordered. Reynolds added a personal accountability report was conducted and confirmed all personnel were safe and accounted for. When firefighters exited the building, Reynolds says several firefighters began experiencing respiratory irritation and skin exposure symptoms. The additional caller was patched directly with the deputy chief, where it was determined. As part of a routine facility cleaning procedure, the firefighters had been exposed to two separate chemicals that were aerosolized or in gaseous form. Firefighters were immediately directed to conduct gross and emergency decontamination to remove as much of the chemical exposure as possible. Safety data sheets, SDS, poison control resources, and facility staff were consulted to ensure appropriate medical evaluation and treatment, Deputy Chief Reynolds said in a release. Cortland Fire upgraded the alarm and brought in off-duty firefighters and requested mutual aid. HazMat equipment was brought in and a technical decontamination area was established. Reynolds added all affected personnel completed technical decontamination. In total, 6 firefighters were evaluated and then transported to Guthrie Cortland Medical Center by TLC ambulance for further treatment. All 6 firefighters were treated and later released within 2 hours. The 2 cleaning agents are food-grade safe, Reynolds said, and industry recognized. However, the chemicals pose a serious health irritant if inhaled or contacted with the skin when it is aerosolized. Assisting Cortland Fire on scene was TLC Ambulance, Homer Fire, and County 911. The department commends the swift actions of all responding agencies and personnel, which ensured firefighter safety and a coordinated response. We'll wrap this week with our favorite topic, lithium-ion battery response. We're back in California where KEYT News reports firefighters and HazMat teams were on the scene of a commercial fire involving lithium-ion batteries inside a facility at 3825 Higuera Street on Monday. According to the San Luis Obispo City Fire Department, fire crews were dispatched to a reported structure fire at an approximately 10,000-square-foot facility on South Higuera Street. Employees at the facility had safely evacuated, and arriving firefighters spotted smoke coming from the building, shared the San Luis Obispo City Fire Department. Inside of the building, fire crews encountered heavy smoke, an indication that fire suppressant tools had been activated already. Once firefighters noted that flames at the scene involved lithium-ion batteries, a hazardous materials team was called. A joint response involving firefighters from Morro Bay City Fire Department, 5 Cities Fire Authority, and San Luis Obispo County Fire Department was called for. HazMat crews worked to limit the exposure of dangerous materials, as well as manage decontamination efforts for responding firefighters, explained the San Luis Obispo City Fire Department. Flames were knocked down around 9:12 a.m., and no impact on the surrounding area has been detected, noted the San Luis Obispo City Fire Department. An official cause of the fire is under investigation by the fire marshal. Speaking of lithium-ion batteries, have you entered your name in the drawing to win a 42-liter lithium-ion battery response kit by DGO? Only a few chances left before the Southernmost HazMat Conference marks the end of the opportunity. Head to thehazmatguys.com/DGEO-giveaway to enter. And on that note, there's only a few more weeks until we're headed to Key West. Stragglers still have time to register for the Southernmost HazMat Conference, and registered attendees can now register for conference courses. Learn more at thehazmatguys.com/conference. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Newsletter Podcast, brought to you by the HazMat Guys. We'll see you next time. Timmy, over and out.